I wanted to drop a bit of a truth bomb and talk to you about something. Hi, Tina. Talk to you about something. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Tina. About something that not enough people talk about, right? Not enough people talk about this. And I want to talk to you about why this is important, but also about how you can use coaching, NLP, hi Sarah, understanding yourself, and really being self-aware when it comes to having your own business and being really self-aware about being lonely, right? So this, I think is it this month or this week is loneliness, right? In within the media. Hi Abigail. It's like loneliness week or something like that. And I was talking to one of my team members this morning who helps us with our PR and media strategy. And one of the things that we were talking about is when you have your own business, hi Katie, when you have your own business, how lonely that can actually be. And how sometimes you're not even aware of how lonely you feel. Hi Catherine. And so I just wanted to give this some time and space because I think that this is so important, because so many people just either, right, what we're seeing right now is either people have their own business and they're working from home on their own. Hi Melanie. Or they have been working from home on their own, or they're just starting to work from home on their own. And so people who've got their own business are working from home alone, right? And I've worked from home alone. You know, Neil actually joined us in the business nearly a year ago now. It might be just a year ago this month. But before that, I worked at home on my own for about 5 years, just completely on my own. And we're also seeing a set of people who used to work in the office, and now they're not going back in the office and they're working from home on their own, right? And we were chatting this morning, me and my team member, about it, and you know, Tali was saying, you know, she's worked from home on her own for the past 5 or 6 months, and we were chatting through like our experiences. And we also said, like, there must be a set of people who used to work in the office but no longer do, and are seeing so many people. Hi Savina. They're seeing so many people go back into the office, but they're then staying at home, and how this can cause this loneliness feeling. And it got me thinking about previously how when I've worked from home on my own, how lonely I felt, and how at one point I didn't realize it was loneliness that I was feeling, but it was loneliness. It was a feeling of depletion, of maybe a little bit of sadness, and sometimes that was just because it was down to loneliness. So I want to talk to you about a couple of things that I'm seeing going on in the world right now when it comes to loneliness, how to identify if you're feeling loneliness in yourself and what to do about it. Because sometimes it can give us kind of a new way of thinking, and sometimes we want to honor it and allow ourselves to feel the way we feel, but then other times there's stuff that we can do to help ourselves connect with other people and like allow ourselves to create that connection. So when you work for yourself or at home, it can seem like it's really exciting, right? Like, I want to roll out of bed in the morning and within a couple of minutes I can start work if I want to, like whatever floats your boat. For me, I love to make sure I'm ready. I love to get dressed, do my makeup, do my hair, although you probably wouldn't guess I've done it today. And then, like, for me, I found that, and this is probably one thing to note, I found that having a routine for myself, to make sure that, like, when I'm working, I'm fully focused on work. Like, so by the time I get to my desk and I'm sat in front of my computer, that's it, I'm in flow within a couple of seconds. So I've literally got to go to the toilet, I've got to make my drinks before I sit down, because if I sit down and open up my computer before I've done them things, it could be hours before I take a toilet break or make myself a drink, right? And thankfully I've got Neil to help me now make my drinks, so that's quite helpful, but you know, not all the time, right? So another thing to think about is, like, a lot of people are thinking, well, it would be great because I'm not distracted by others. And this is one thing that I've also found a challenge as well, is having worked from home on my own for 5 years and then now working at home with Neil, it can it can cause such a distraction. But then other times it's knowing like when them boundaries are there, it's knowing when actually it's a beneficial thing to stop you from feeling lonely, and also when it's a helpful thing to just work from different rooms. So sometimes we'll work from different rooms, and that's really helpful in our productivity, and to ensure that we're still getting that connection. So this happens because, like, as humans, human nature is to connect, is to be in groups and connect with people and have them connections, and you cannot get them connections when you're on your own, right? So we've got so much technology at our fingertips these days that it's so easy to build these connections. So if you're ever finding yourself feeling lonely, like you just want someone to chat to, or there's something that you just want to bounce off someone, because when you're working from home on your own, you can't necessarily do that unless you use technology. So unless you use Zoom or pick up the phone and ring someone or send someone a message. And I'm going to talk to you about a few things in a minute about how you can put things like this in place for you. And these things, in the 5 years that I did work from home on my own, these things were absolute game changers for making sure that if I ever did start to feel lonely, I was able to just pick up my phone or send a quick voice message or WhatsApp message or pick up the phone and ring somebody, and I was able to get that connection and support there. So it's really important to remember that, you know, we all have different personality types. So some people who are more extrovert, for example, extroverted people may like more to be around people more often than introverts do. However, it's not, people used to think like if somebody's an introvert, it means that they want to be on their own all the time. That's not the case at all. Like, I'm an introvert, but I thought that I was an extrovert for so long because I'm very outgoing. I like to meet new people. I like to strike up conversations with new people, but I only like to do it for so much before then I have to retreat and spend time on my own to re-energize myself. So when you understand whether you're introvert or extrovert, this is about asking yourself the question, do I gain my energy more from being around other people or from being on my own? So sometimes I was saying to Neil the other day, I was like, I just want to be on my own. And he completely misunderstood what I said. He was like, all right then, get lost. And I was like, no, I just mean like I want to sit upstairs for an hour and read my book. Like, that's it. Like sometimes when you are introvert, you still like being around other people, or most introverts still like being around other people and connecting with people because it's human nature. But at a certain point, they will need to then have boundaries in place to say, right, now I need to go and just have a bubble bath and be on my own for a couple of hours, or sit on my own and read a book, or, you know, especially, and this is something that I've experienced as a parent and a wife, you know, and working from home with other people now. Sometimes it can become a bit much, and I'm like, and then I feel guilty because I obviously love spending time with my kids, but then there's times where I need to just have a bit of time to myself so that I can really just kind of regroup, even if that's just a couple of hours a week of just really allowing yourself to have that time and space to become more aware of yourself, become really self-aware. So if this is resonating with anyone, do give me a yes, a hello if it's helpful. Or if you have any specific questions that you want me to answer as we're talking about this, please do let me know. So when you are introverted, then you gain your energy by being alone. You still like being with other people, but just not quite, you don't gain your energy from being around other people. When you are more extroverted, you like being around other people as well, but you also gain your energy from being around other people. So if you were ever feeling tired or a bit energyless, you would gain more energy and be fired up more by then being around more people. Whereas if you're an introvert, if you're starting to feel more tired, that's a sign that you need to spend a bit of time alone to regroup and gain your energy as well. There's also something in the middle of that called ambivert, and I actually did some comments for Fabulous magazine on this, where sometimes, and I think sometimes it can be a bit confusing because an ambivert is like bang in the middle. So in some situations you will gain your energy from being around other people, but in other situations you will gain your energy from being alone. So being really self-aware is so important, because especially if you're an entrepreneur or a coach who works from home alone, you need to become really self-aware of when you are feeling the way you're feeling, if you're feeling lonely, what to do about it, if there's certain things that you can do to support yourself. Okay, so the first thing to do is just be really self-aware of what your personality type is, so that you know what to do for yourself in certain situations and you know how to fill yourself back up. Make sure you have boundaries in place for yourself. But then if you are ever finding yourself feeling lonely because you're alone too often, you also know why you feel like that and what you can do about it. Okay, so it's really important just to remember that if somebody's an introvert, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to be on their own all the time. They still want to connect with people, because human connection is a natural thing that all of us, our human instincts, want to ensure is fulfilled. Connection is key. Okay, so one of the things that I did when I first, hi Chanel, when I first set up my coaching business, in fact, it was probably about a year or two in, I found myself being in the situation where I really needed to connect with other people who were on the same sort of wavelength. And as much as I loved being around my friends, my friends that I see all the time, there were some things that they just didn't get. Like when you run your own business, especially in the industry that I work in and that we work in, if you're also a coach, I found there was conversations that I needed to have with people that I couldn't have, and that left me feeling lonely. So it wasn't that I was on my own too much, it was that I didn't have the outlet to have the conversations that I needed to have with somebody else, and that left me feeling really lonely, a bit down, a bit sad. And at the time, I decided to create a group of an informal mastermind of women who were on the same wavelength as me, and who I could have these kinds of conversations with, who I could just speak to. If I was having a bad day, I could just share with them what went wrong and that I was having a bad day. I wasn't necessarily trying to solve the bad day. I wasn't necessarily trying to solve a problem. I just needed to speak about it and have that time and space to do so. And so I created an informal mastermind, and at first it went okay, but it didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to. But there was 2 people from that mastermind that I really connected with. And since then, and that must have been over 3 years, 3, 4, 5 years ago, since then, we have literally spoken almost every single week, at least, sometimes even daily, on either WhatsApp or WhatsApp voice notes. So it's been a long-standing relationship that's really supported that kind of loneliness, to ensure that there's someone who you can really speak to on the same wavelength as you, on the same level as you. So building these connections is like, you can't put money on this stuff. You can't, there's no way really to describe how powerful and how detrimental this is to your mental health, to ensuring that you don't feel lonely. Someone there to have as a sounding board and to support you, and who you can support as well, who are just on the same wavelength as you. That is so key to ensuring that your mindset and your mental health, stays and you don't feel too lonely. Because if you ever do feel lonely, you can just pick up the phone and start a conversation. So here are a couple of things then that I've done myself, or that I've found have really helped in terms of becoming self-aware and really using and utilising coaching and NLP to ensure that you don't feel too lonely as an individual working from home on your own. So whether you're a coach working from home on your own, whether you're an entrepreneur, or whether you are now finding that you're working from home as an employee, and you're seeing other people go back to the office and you're kind of like, oh, you feel like there's something missing. Melanie says, yes, need to make sure I'm having the right connections. Thanks, Becky. Okay, so the first one, if you're ever feeling lonely and you're working from home on your own, the first thing that'll really help is connecting with other people on Zoom. So I mentioned about connecting with people, excuse me, connecting with people and using and utilizing technology. So the first thing, connecting with other people on Zoom is really powerful, because you can have these conversations, whether it's, it's the person that you connect with who's on the same wavelength as you, whether it's you connect with somebody in a Facebook group who's in the same kind of situation as you, and you just start a weekly Zoom. Like, that's how mine started. Like, the connections that I've made are my best friends in business, who I now actually perceive to be my best friends, and we really connect. These people, I started connecting with these on Zoom. So we just every now and then would just arrange a Zoom session, and then we continued to do that until it then moved over to WhatsApp, and we just WhatsApp on a weekly basis. So the second thing that really help is, and even before this, what we spoke about earlier, understanding your personality type, whether you're introvert or extrovert, will really help to begin with. Connecting with others on Zoom, join local networks. So whether that's networking meetings or, other meetings. So there's loads of meetings around, mums and kids, women in business, other local businesses, whether it's women or men, other networks of people who may be on the same wavelength as you. And then you may find that you find somebody who you really connect with on them, in them networks, and then you connect with each other even more further than that. Speak to people when you feel like you need to connect. So if you ever do feel like you need to connect, don't let it muster. Just, pick up the phone and speak to somebody. Go, on your social media if that helps. Connect with somebody who's on the same wavelength, start conversations. What you may find is that just by you saying out loud that you feel like the way that you feel, somebody else will probably say, do you know what? I feel like that too. I'm really glad that you brought that up because I now can acknowledge that with myself. Don't let it fester. Another thing that I did at the beginning of last year when I'd been working with myself, I've been working from home on my own for a long time, and I do have a team who all work remotely as well as freelancers, but I was on my own a lot, even though I connected with them on our, what they're called, technology, like our channels that we spoke on and the technology that we use for our software. I still was at home on my own most of the time. So what I did was I started working from co-working spaces and from cafes. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you want to speak to other people. Sometimes it might be that you just want to hear the hustle and bustle and the atmosphere of being around other people, or being in an office type scenario where there's other people there. And that can really help with your productivity, your creativity. You're not alone. So it might not be that you want to drum up a conversation with somebody. It might just be that you want to be in an area where there's more people around you. So working from places where other people are, things like co-working spaces, really powerful. I'm really looking forward to our co-working spaces opening up again, cafes and things like this. Same here, exactly to the point. It's how we've been feeling these days. How I've been feeling these days. Yeah. So, I think the most important thing is if you feel in a certain way, if you're feeling lonely, remember that entrepreneurs, coaches, people who own businesses, freelancers, whatever you resonate with, if you are working at home on your own, it is inevitable that you are going to feel lonely at some point or another. So just make sure you're reaching out to people, have these conversations, acknowledge within yourself when you feel like that. Don't try and glaze over it. It's a normal, natural feeling to have. So acknowledging it, honoring it, and then taking action if you feel like that's the right thing to do is really important. Okay, ladies, I think that's it from me. I hope that this was helpful. It is, ladies and gents. I think it's just really important because, this is something that we don't see people talking about, but it's the truth. It happens to everybody. If you are working from home alone, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for somebody else, or you're a freelancer or whatever, you are going to feel lonely at some point or another. So just making sure you acknowledge that is really powerful. Thanks, Becky, really helpful. I'm so pleased it was helpful, Sarah. All right, have an amazing day, and if you've got any other questions or need anything else, do reach out and connect with me. I've got some free training running at the moment, Change Your Mind, Change Your Life training series. It's a really powerful way to learn more about NLP, about neuro-linguistic programming. It's a free training series and you'll find it really helpful. If you're on Instagram with me, you'll have to pop the message, you'll have to pop me a message for the link. And if you're on Facebook with me, the link is in the description. Catherine says, thank you, good reminder. Amazing. All right, Melanie, thanks, you're welcome. Amazing. Have an amazing day and I'll see you all next week.